right, so this is Ed Pownall. He's been working for Kelvin Ayre for a long time as Kelvin's PR guy.
That's right, yeah, nearly a decade now.
Yeah, so you're not so much a Bitcoin SV guy as more of a Kelvin Ayre guy.
Well, I mean, more online gambling is where I come from. That's my kind of background. And so when Bodog launched in the UK, that's where I came in to meet Kelvin and then started doing his personal stuff. So initially when this Bitcoin stuff, it was just completely alien to me.
Yeah.
And
how did he explain it to you?
Well, he just said initially, just get Google alerts for blockchain and Bitcoin. And I didn't, I just suddenly realized there's like 100 a day of each. And it was sort of, and I just thought, you know what, old dog, new tricks. You can teach an old dog new tricks, and if I can get a new, I've done the same thing for 25 years, so to be doing something completely different is awesome.
What was the thing that won you over?
Well, I just think the way that you're getting into a whole new world. What I didn't realise was the trolling was going to be even worse than it was in the gambling industry,
which I imagine is pretty severe.
Which is pretty bad, yeah. You get a lot of antis, people anti-betting in general, people saying that you're just trying to make people addicts, which I disagree with, but that's a whole other debate. But I didn't expect it to be as vicious as it was. It seems to me that something that's so nascent should be trying to sort of work together rather than against each other, but I think there's little chance of that.
And now you're, all in.
Well, I mean, I get it. I think, if you do your research on your own and just block out the noise, it is pretty clear to me that BSV is streets ahead of everything else. I mean, it's certainly, if you compare it to the white paper, there is no argument in my head at all that it is the closest to that.
Yeah. So you're the guy who's responsible for, setting up all this conference and making sure it all runs smoothly.
Not quite. We've got a pretty hefty events team, but I make sure that we get lots of lovely media here to cover the event. But no, our events team, Mids and Amber, are on a different level. I mean, is this the third one you've been to, or have you been to all four? But this is.
It's actually the first CoinGeek conference I've been to.
Oh, right, okay.
I went to a Satoshi's Vision conference back in 2017.
Right. Okay. No, so this is our fourth one of these, but we've been doing Bodog ones and gambling ones for. Since about 1998. So,
right.
And we used to have our own MMA team, and so we were doing MMA events. We did Russia versus the USA event, and so I've got pictures of Kelvin and President Putin and stuff like that, which is bizarre. So yeah, we're used to doing this kind of stuff, and so it runs pretty slick.
Well, actually, I mean, this must seem pretty small time for you after that.
Well, in a way, but I mean that's nice. I mean, what I'd love though is rather than converting sort of 400 people at a time, we were doing it to millions, and that's why getting the sort of mainstream media coverage is important. We've got News One here, which is the biggest Korean news station, so we're slowly converting. Korea's a very Ethereum country for whatever reason.
For some reason.
Yeah, and so hopefully with News One, and we've got some sort of local business people here that are quite famous, that have spoken today and they're speaking tomorrow, and one actually tomorrow is even launching his own music streaming business, and he's got the biggest selling app in Korea already. He's got 35 million customers, so fingers crossed we can get through to the business press in Korea. Korea IT Times are here as well, so the main sort of computer tech, which obviously in Korea is a massive industry. So yeah, we're starting to convert thousands, if not millions, rather than hundreds, which is good and entertaining and fun. Going back
to the whole gaming and gambling thing, I mean, I know I've heard Kelvin say it, I've heard Craig say it, that Bitcoin would be ideal for the online gaming industry, but we've only seen a little trickle of it. We haven't seen a big move to adopt Bitcoin. Do you think?
I think what will happen is that it'll happen. It's just getting that education through, because chargebacks are a nightmare for the gambling industry. So basically, someone can have a bet of £1,000, then decide, hang on, I lost, so I'm just going to pretend it wasn't me, and say, and the gambling company, if it's a licensed, regulated, proper gambling company, will just has to pay that back. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with blockchain, that's not an option. It's there that you've done the bet yourself. So I'm staggered that more haven't come on board. So I think it's definitely an education process. I can see in countries like Kenya and even the US, where the offshore companies are struggling to get credit card payments through, that could happen there. So it'll happen, but it is, as you say, a trickle at the very best, if not a drip, and very surprising that these people haven't caught on to it. And also transaction fees for them are a killer, absolute killer, across different countries and banks and everything else. So the low transaction fees of certainly BSV would be a huge advantage. But yeah, I think it's just getting someone, a salesperson, in front of these people to make them understand.
Well, my theory was that they would have rushed to Bitcoin. I mean, there were a lot of online Bitcoin gambling games, but I've spoken to some of the people who run them, and they all said it was the transaction fees that killed it.
Well, of course, but that's why BSV should be the solution. And But I mean, that said, I mean, sportsbet.io is sponsoring a Premiership team in the UK. They've got Bitcoin on their sleeves, and sportsbet.io on the jersey. So they're the lead sponsor of a Premiership team. eToro, obviously a big exchange, are doing a lot of Premiership sponsorship and advertising. So they're obviously trying to get into that market, because the previous biggest sponsors in UK soccer have been the betting companies. So there's clearly a growing synergy there, but it's still not, as you say, that big listed company that's come in and said we accept Bitcoin.
Well, you would think Kelvin Ayre would be the man to sell that. I mean, does he have a plan there? Does he have the context?
Well, I mean, we've obviously our own brand, Bodog, accepts Bitcoin and Bitcoin SV, so old BTC and BSV. So yeah, that's happened. But I'd love to see a Bet365 or one of the massive ones, come on board. And I think it must just be a lack of education. I can't see any other reason not to.
All right, well, let's get out there and educate them.
Indeed. Cheers.
All right, thanks, Ed.
No, right.
See ya.